Hey everyone, it's Types, and the Pokemon TCG has tons of really interesting cards, especially in the most recent expansion, Pitch Black, with so many cool new decks. And they've been messing around with some pretty cool mechanics and themes and synergies and stuff like that. But there are some things that I want to see even more from. So today I'm going to be going over 5 different, I guess the word would be themes or mechanics and synergies. I think it's themes, but tell me if there's a better word in the comment section in the Pokemon TCG that I like and want to see more of. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on the 5 I'm talking about in the comment section, as well as others you want to see more of. But the first one here is cards that interact with having no cards in hand or a certain amount of cards in hand. I guess, best, well, I was about to say the best of these in Standard is Slowbro. The best of these in Standard is not Slowbro. The best, I'm pretty sure, is Gladian's Final Battle. Gladian's Final Battle alongside Slowbro, alongside Thievul, and alongside the Silvally. These cards only work well if you have no cards in hand. When I say well, that might be a bit in quotes. Some of these cards aren't super good. But we have these different cards to interact with the amount of cards you have in hand. In some ways, a card like Alakazam is also like this. I don't love Alakazam. I mean, it's a good card, right? But it isn't something that requires you to have a certain amount of cards in hand. I mean, just the more, the better, right? And then it just draws you cards. Obviously, any draw card changes the amount of cards in your hand, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm more so talking about cards that want a specific amount. For example, I'd say I group it into 3 categories: cards that want no cards in hand, which I just mentioned; cards that want the same amount of cards in your hand as your opponent, like a Noivern. Noivern's a really cool card from Journey Together. This is a card that I want to play with more, with the ability of Tuning Echo. If you have, the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, you're able to attack with Frightening Howl for free, doing 110 and Confusion. Unfortunately, 110 and Confusion is not that good, but it's definitely an interesting card here, and if you haven't ever tried it out, I'd recommend trying it out some. Again, it's not super good, though it's not like abysmal, I guess. I mean, it's not that much better of an attacker than Munkidori, which, isn't an attacker, but it's a cool card here. And then we also have cards that care about a certain number of cards in your hand. I'm trying to think of cards like this off the top of my head. I guess Alolan, what is this? Alolan Dugtrio. Yes, this one says you need exactly 3 cards in your hand to attack, and this card is really interesting as well. I actually made a live deck in one of the trainer trials that I'm blanking on the name of which one it is, but it's the one that was like Singleton Standard with maybe some Singleton Single Prize Standard, something kind of like that. Another thing about the deck, it didn't work in live. Live just like had some big issues with hand size stuff, but these cards are definitely really interesting, and I've always loved them. There have been cards like Beedrill in the past, or like Empoleon, a card that ended up seeing a little bit of play, not too much, but with the ability you can again only activate if you have no cards in hand, and you get it from the discard pile straight into play, and then you get to draw 3 cards as well. We see cards similar to this in the form of the Mustards, as well as Archie's, Ace in the Hole, and Max's and Baldrick, which are very powerful, but they are hard to set up as well. So these are definitely really fun types of cards with legitimate payoffs sometimes, but with very legitimate downsides as well. Overall, I really enjoy these types of cards. Some people really don't. They're a bit complicated. They're not so new player friendly. We saw the All Out Slowbro as a pre-release promo, and I'm not gonna lie, I played against someone who was using it, and they were a new player, and it was pretty difficult for them. But it is fun as a really silly thing that I'd like to see a little bit more of, and maybe something that's a little bit better. We've seen cards like this. Again, I mentioned like Archie's and Maxie's be good at times. There are some other ones, but seeing something like that that's actually very good is interesting. I will say the Slowbro in Standard is like okay. I mean, it's not that good. It's very hard to use, and it's not super strong, but it's not super weak either. It's somewhere in the middle, and obviously it's Psychic hitting a weakness on so some good cards. I mean, Dragapult with Lily's there, right? So definitely a fun little thing there. The next theme we have is damage counter synergy stuff. The paid card, I guess, that does this is Munkidori. Munkidori does damage counter manipulation, which is cool. Obviously, you want damage counters on your side of the board. You want 3 to make good use of it. And then also, you then move them on your opponent's side of the board. We see lots of different cards that place damage counters on your opponent's side of the board. Lots that also reward you for having damage counters on your side of the board. But, I mean, when I say lots, I mean there are some. you can see older cards like Laren Zigzagoon, Inteleon, or just a number of cards like that that either do it once on play or once per turn. Obviously, you need to make sure they're balanced, but as far as I'm aware, they've been pretty balanced, not too overpowered really ever. I could be forgetting something. I mean, technically, you can win with them turn one, which is a little problematic. Flapple actually banned and expanded, but I don't even know how good the Flapple deck is. I actually played it once in the video on live, and I timed out, so it is now banned as well, if you didn't know. But Munkidori is a card that it is cool. I actually really like this card. I don't think it's broken. I think it's actually very balanced in this current standard format. Is a really cool card. Obviously, damage counters, you look at like Dragapult, and maybe that's a little too well. Okay, no, it's a little too good. Maybe it's a little unfun in that manner as well. But I think specifically damage counters in a way that rewards you for having damage counters on your side of the board, putting damage counters carefully on your opponent's side of the board, or just interacting with them in lots of different ways is cool. I think just putting them on is fine enough, but overall damage counters are super interesting. I will also mention they are a little complicated. For example, an ability like, I suppose, Crustle, right? Crustle is going to wall off damage, right, from your opponent's Pokemon EX if they're putting damage counters through the use of something like, say, Dragapult EX, right? They are still able to do this because damage counters, it's not the same thing as damage, which is pretty confusing to new players, and you still end up with damage counters on you after you do damage as well. So again, it is a little complicated, which is, I guess, the only issue with cards like this. Then we move to my third theme that I really enjoy here, and that theme is moving other stuff around, not damage counters, but energy. Energy moving is interesting. We actually, in stand format, I mean, we have Energy Switch. This card is good. That's not Energy Switch. Where is it? Here it is. It is a good card. It's not like a broken card. It's pretty solid, but it's fun. And as we see the decks that's in, we see these kind of toolbox style decks mostly. Some of my toolboxy Ogerpon box is pretty toolboxy. Rageable Ogerpon has some toolbox elements. If you're not familiar with what the toolbox deck is, it's a deck where you have, there are a few different terms, but generally it's going to be a deck where you're able to have different attacking options, something saying for different weaknesses, and you do this probably using different types of energy. A really cool version of this is, we actually have Dugong in standard that is the same as Armarouge. It lets you move water energy from your bench to your active. Well, I say the same as Armarouge. It's not the same because it's a different type. Other than that, it's the same. Armarouge was a really interesting card. Not a super powerful card, but from Scarlet and Violet, it has since rotated, but it has this ability that, again, lets you move fire energy from your bench to the active, and it's not basic fire. So, well, it lets you move basic fire, but it's not restricted to that. So you compare this with special energies. Specifically, you're looking at Prism Energy here. This allows you to attack with a wide variety of different Pokemon, like, okay, honestly, none of these are like weakness hitters that attack for one. I guess Iron Leaves is a weakness hitter, but that also moves the energy to itself, which is still a cool card. Let me find a different list that also plays some different weakness hitters, like Durant EX here, right? Durant EX, kind of a terrible card. Also, wait, sorry, did the other list not run Lili's Clefairy EX? I don't think it did. So, yeah, I'll go back here. This one's running. Oh, this person played it 3 times. That's kind of cool. But we see Durant EX, just not a very good card. If you don't know what it does, it doesn't really matter. Same thing with Lilies. I guess if you don't know what that does, you probably should know what it does. But you have cards like this that are mediocre. In general, obviously Liz is a better card than Durant, but when not hitting for weakness, they're not super impressive. When they're hitting for weakness, they're pretty solid, and you have a bunch of colorless energy as well as one energy of a type. Then we also see Pokemon like Mew EX, Ultramarine Ogerpon EX, Roaring Moon EX as well. That is 2 types of energy, or sorry, 2 energy of not fire. So you'll need like 2 Prism energies there or whatever. We see these different attacking options, as well as a bigger focus on, obviously, the fire attackers, which are like the base of the deck, kind of. So we just see these interesting different kind of designs with the deck. You have different options, and it's really, really fun, I would say. And moving energy really enables this. Ultimately, moving energy in standard, you still have something like Blissey EX as well. This is a cool card, allowing you to move 1 energy every single turn. It's an energy switch every turn, and it's fun. It's not super powerful, but it is fun. You can do lots of weird different things with it. You can power up different Pokemon. You can do like walls if you want, which is probably not as fun. And ultimately, these cards in standard aren't very strong. The damage counter stuff is good. I don't think, I'd like to see a little more of it, but it is good and supported. The stuff from moving energy isn't supported very much. It also requires certain types of energy acceleration. Like TLMS Ogre Pontiacs works really well with it. And different things that accelerate in a specific way, maybe to themselves, something that then you can move somewhere else. Because if it just accelerates to the Pokemon in the first place, then you don't need to move the energy. And I think in some ways jumping through hoops can be bad because it's not good, right? Let's be honest, it's weak, but it is fun as well. The fourth thing I have, this is very powerful. And this is, I guess I'll just say replaying abilities. So you can do this in standard using Chien-Pao and Area Zero Underdepths to discard your bench Pokemon. So you look here, you could technically Area Zero Underdepths, discard your Meowth, then play Area Zero Underdepths again after you've Chien-Pao'd and get the Meowth back. Well, okay, this list can't actually do it because it doesn't even run any recovery for anything. But you'd be able to go ahead and replay that same Meowth. I mean, obviously in this list you just play another Meowth, but you're able to replay cards, which is definitely pretty interesting, I would say. It's not, I mean, it can be very powerful, right? It can be very powerful. It's something that also can be overpowered, right? We see a card like Scoop Up Net be banned and expanded. Honestly, a really cool card. I don't remember the exact, I think the reason this card's banned is because of Iron Valiant EX, if I'm not mistaken. I remember someone was like, that's not the reason. And then I looked it up and it was the reason. It's very powerful for other reasons as well, but it's just a very good card. A very good, fun card, letting you put a Pokemon that isn't a V or GX, which can still scoop up then other cards. But it allows you to get these cards back to your hand, which is like super, super fun. So overall, just really interesting, interacting with just all these abilities on play in lots of different ways. So just so fun of a card here. And you also have similar things. You actually have one card like this in standard, which is Devolution, letting you reuse abilities of on-play evolutions in the form of Strange Timepiece. Strange Timepiece is kind of bad, right? When I say kind of bad, it's pretty bad. Using Alakazam, it's not actually that bad there. It lets you devolve one of your evolved Psychic Pokemon down to any stage. You can actually go to the basic. You don't have to go to the basic, which is interesting. And then you're also able to theoretically devolve a Pokemon that's you can devolve to a Pokemon that's not Psychic there. Technically, the way you do this is by having like a Pokemon that evolves from a Psychic Pokemon that is a Psychic Pokemon that evolves to a Psychic Pokemon, devolve it back to, like, let's say Tinkaton. Tinkaton, the stage 2 is Psychic there. Then the stage 1 is actually, well, you have, okay, in standard you don't have this. Previously you had this. You could play a stage 2 Tinkaton, a stage 1 Tinkaton that's Metal, and the basic Psychic Tinkatink. Or whatever Tinkatink, and you could evolve the Tinkaton actually and devolve the non-Psychic Pokemon. That was a bit of a messy explanation. But long story short, you can do some wacky stuff with it. The wacky stuff isn't very good. It's mostly bad, right? But it is definitely pretty fun here. Strange Timepiece is a card that is really cool, and other forms of devolution are really fun. There are other ways to scoop up Pokemon. There actually is a really interesting card in standard. Well, I don't know if it's interesting. It's pretty bad, so maybe it's not actually interesting. But the Swoobat that just puts one of your bench Pokemon, all cards attached into your hand, which is cool. Also, these scoop up effects like Scoop Up Net or this, I guess, Happy Return kind of allow you to, again, let you reuse the abilities, which is really fun. They also let you play the Pokemon for some other reason. I can't really think of another one. I mean, it does let you heal though, so it does let you heal, which is pretty nice. And it also lets you switch, and then that's useful. Again, technically there could be some other reason to replay a Pokemon as well. So overall, just super interesting use cases for cards like this. They're versatile. They are very powerful again. So that is a bit of an issue, but I do think they are very fun. And I know lots of people love these style of cards and would love something like that. I mean, like Professor Terra's Scenario we had recently, that was kind of fun on a supporter. We have Scoop Up Cyclone in standard as well. Obviously, that's just going to be a one of in deck, so it's usually not worth it, unfortunately. Right? Obviously, if it could be played in higher quantities, then it would be very good. And actually, there was a point at which you could play it as a 3 of in live at one point, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, a little broken, but also, kind of fun there. And then the last type of card here also involves, in some ways, reusing stuff, but that's going to be copying things. So you look at a card like, I guess, Stevel, a really fun card, highly questionable card, but you choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks in play and use it as this attack if you have no cards in hand. And the reason that this is so fun is that you just have all these different attacking options. You look at something like expand format as well, Regidrago V-Star. Regidrago, of course, if you don't know, it's like super good. It's kind of broken. But Regidrago V-Star, expanded, lets you choose one of your Dragon Pokemon in this card and use it as this attack, and you can copy it. And this gives you a bunch of different options. Then you look at Enzoric EX. In standard format, copying one of your bench ends Pokemon, use this attack is also super fun. The issue with these cards is they don't actually give you that many options. I mean, they give you some, but they are somewhat limited there. So I think it would be really cool if we had a copying Pokemon that just has even more options. And having lots of options is really fun. I like being able to do lots of different things. And, Ends has some options. You have like 5 realistically in a deck. That's probably a little generous as well. But with something like Regidrago and Expanded, you have more options. But within the deck, you'll have 5 to 10 probably to choose from. In general, you have a good amount, but also Regidrago is like expanded and it's not standard. I'd love to see more of these in standard. Ultimately, some can be very powerful. I mean, Mewtwo Mew was one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, but it is still really just super fun. Copying stuff, copy your opponent's stuff is also really fun. Not as good because sometimes they just have stuff that isn't really copyable, like hide and sneak. That just like you essentially do nothing there. But overall, I think these 5 different, I guess, themes are really cool in the Pokemon TCG, and I'd love to see more of them in standard. Even with the damage counters being used a bit more creatively would be really cool. Obviously, that one's very strong. The others are in standard, not super amazing and not used to a super interesting degree. I think, Enzoric EX is a little limited. Obviously, making it limited means Pokemon can have it a bit more under control, but, doing things that are really just kind of, I don't know if out there is quite the right word, but a bit more interesting to mess around with, I think is really fun. But tell me if there's anything you missed. I was talking with Uncommon Fossil. He mentioned Mill as something he likes. That's not something that I like as much. I think it's a little boring. It's been on the Chandelure grind as well. We recently talked about that in a video. But if you want to see me talk about other Pokemon TCG stuff, make sure you like and subscribe because it really does help me and the channel, and it is completely free. But if you're feeling extra generous, I'd also love it if you join the channel as a member. You get some cool stuff, which is detailed if you do that. And it's really something I appreciate quite a bit. But I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you do all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.